Habibis, welcome Habibis. It is another Habibi Power Hour. I'm Siraj Hashmi.
I'm Mujahed Kobbe.
And before we get into our weekly jihad, and we're gonna let everybody come in. First of all, things are getting a little bit back to normal.
Right.
I mean,
in normal in which way?
English Premier League came back, and
there you go.
All of a sudden, as you can see, I'm wearing my Arsenal jersey. Arsenal getting back to its world-class form of losing 3-0 to Manchester City.
And you know who beat Manchester City when they played him last?
Your mom.
Manchester United.
I hate you so much. All right, enough soccer. We got a little news segment. We're going to just talk about the day's news. Jihad on tap. First of all, everybody's going crazy over this new John Bolton book, the former national security advisor. He had an excerpt published in the Wall Street Journal, basically accusing Democrats of impeachment malpractice, saying that they should have focused on Trump's dealings with China, in which he accuses Trump of pleading with Xi to have China buy U.S. farm products to help his reelection chances in 2020. That Trump also gave a pass to China's human rights abuses, especially when it came to the re-education camps or the concentration camps holding over 1 million Uyghur Muslims. And then you had him not issuing statements about the 30th anniversary of the Tiananmen Square massacre or the Hong Kong protests in 2019, as well as failing to crack down on China for its tech companies, telecommunication companies, Huawei and ZTE. So Jay, Habibi, Mujahed, first of all, when you see all this, what's your read on it?
Well, the first thing is it's amazing how every single one of these ex-Trump admins basically are saying the same thing, that what you're seeing and what you're seeing is what he really is. Like, this is the way he's running the country, is how you see him on TV, which is pretty crappy. That's the way I would want to say it. But one thing on Brennan, well, I mean, I believe he says similar things to these guys, that he does not hold accountable human rights abuses and stuff. And the main thing important to him is himself and the way he's going to be looking to other people. So, like pleading to China to buy more American agriculture and farm produce and stuff like that. I believe that he's done that. Or that he's not mentioned the human rights abuses against putting the Muslims into re-education camps, which is a huge thing.
I read an old interview from like 1990 in which Trump was sort of praiseworthy of China and cracking down on the students in the Tiananmen Square massacre, and that was from a Playboy interview. I believe Business Insider sort of rehashed that in the lead up to the 30th anniversary of Tiananmen Square, which was last year. This year was the 31st anniversary. But yeah, there are a couple things that came to mind. One, when looking at the specific part about human rights abuses, that is a huge allegation to make, obviously, basically saying, I think the specific excerpt from his book was along the lines of Trump basically saying that Xi Jinping should continue, building those concentration camps, and it comes from like an interpreter or translator, but we'll never see the transcripts from that, given the fact that it's probably under executive privilege and the White House will block it. So that will just be an allegation that will be out there. While Trump has responded to Bolton by calling him a liar and saying that everybody hated John Bolton in the White House. It's pretty funny because like why did you hire him in the first place if everybody hated him? Like, if everybody hated him and he wasn't doing the job that you tasked him to do, why didn't you fire him sooner? Like, he had him on for at least a year and a half. It's insane to me.
Well, but it's not only that. Every single person that goes off from the admin has the same response from Trump, that this guy is a sleazeball, that he's a liar, that he's all this kind of stuff. And it's like, I thought you were going to hire the best people, but it
Yeah,
turns out you're hiring all these liars and all these grifters and stuff. Now,
it's
I
too
do
much.
think some of the parts are exaggerated just to sell the book and stuff.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
if he wants to accuse the Democrats of doing impeachment malpractice while he's saying that these things happened, if you're a man for the country, if you want to save the country, if everything's going to shit, why didn't you step forward? Why did you
Well, the
hold
thing
all
is,
this stuff back?
yeah, no, and that's the thing that always strikes me is that like the House Democrats could have subpoenaed John Bolton to testify in their impeachment inquiry. It wasn't
Right.
only until it was pretty basically until the Senate, when the impeachment process moved forward past the House, they voted on basically impeaching Trump on 2 different articles. When it moved to the Senate for trial, Bolton said he would make himself available and then basically put the ball in Senate Republicans' court to basically make a move, knowing very well that they weren't going to subpoena him. And it's just like, I mean, impeachment is inherently a political process, but like Bolton wanted that outcome. He wanted to get this book sold because he was working on it. I mean, it's not like he had this produced over the last like 6 months. I'm sure like he had this idea going forward. I don't even remember when it was announced, but as soon as he left the White House in September of 2019, he was basically signing the book deal almost immediately.
Absolutely.
And it's just so laughable and like if you want to talk about someone being a grifter, John Bolton is a grifter. He's a grifter to the max right there. Like he is someone who sold out his principles. He didn't care about transparency, only to sell a book. And that is like the worst type of grifting. Like if he wanted to fall on his sword to basically save the republic, as he sort of was trying to make the case that he was doing, like you can't get away with that in 2020. People see through that right away.
Yeah, and with the way social media is and the way everybody has access to almost all of your thoughts, especially the way he was coming up to this very he was on social media all the time. He was tweeting
Right.
about a lot of things. And
I had his tweets. I had John Bolton on like push notifications. So like whenever he tweeted, I would see it and be like, oh shit, like John Bolton's tweeting this.
Right.
I actually back in the day, when I was working at a small media outlet called Global Voice Hall, I actually interviewed John Bolton twice. In 2015, shit. I think it was it was at CPAC in 2015. I interviewed him there on camera. I got to find video of it. And then I interviewed him one more time with respect to the Iran nuclear deal. So that may have been late 2015, early 2016. But I mean, I don't think he probably doesn't remember me now, which is fine. I mean, who remembers me anyways? But he was like very willing to talk to me. And this was at the time when he was simply just campaigning against the Iran nuclear deal that the Obama administration pushed out. And
and that's funny because the most angry he was when Trump was refusing to bomb Iran. I forget who pointed that out. I forget on Twitter. Somebody pointed that excerpt out in it where he was.
I've been pointing. I mean, I didn't point anything out today because I was saving everything up for Habibi Power Hour. Like I really wanted to tweet out stuff, and I just wanted to just like hold it in. I was like, no, wait, I got to think of the way how like comedians do it because they don't tweet out their best jokes. In my case, I'm obviously not really a comedian, but I'm definitely focusing on like the best takes for Habibi Power Hour. Because
and if you were
I don't want to just repeat the same stuff I'm saying on social media,
Right, absolutely. You want to save it here. But I mean,
and also this is a subtweet to Carpe Donktum, who thinks that I have to tweet about everything in order to show that I care about something when he could just fuck off.
Right. No, that's my favorite thing is because I've gone through so many different accounts. Is one account I would have tweeted about something and been commenting about it, and then now I'm tweeting about something else, and they're like, well, what about that other thing? And I'm trying to find the tweet. Yeah, because it's on something else. I completely forget about it.
Yeah. All right. So real quick, today, Fulton County District Attorney Paul Howard, he charged the now terminated police officer Garrett Rolfe of 11 criminal charges, including felony murder, in the case of Rayshard Brooks, who was shot and killed, I believe, on either Friday or Saturday night last week. If convicted, Rolfe could face the death penalty or life in prison. The charges come after the DA's office viewed 8 videos of the incident, and they interviewed 10 witnesses. And for those who are keeping track of the entire case, the officers, Rolfe and the second officer, Devin Brosnan, who faces 3 charges, including aggravated assault, they failed to provide timely medical attention to Brooks for 2 minutes after he was shot, and Brooks died in the hospital shortly thereafter. Rolfe also kicked Brooks as he was lying on the ground, quote unquote, fighting for his life, according to the district attorney. And Rolfe also said, "I got him," after he shot him. So it also, before we get into it, Brosnan agreed to testify against Rolfe, which is huge. And he's like one of the first officers in Fulton County to testify against another officer in their own department. And the autopsy found that Brooks suffered 2 gunshot wounds to the back, indicating that the police officers' lives were not entirely in danger. However, video evidence shows that that Brooks turned around and fired the taser in the direction of the officers. And it gets a little bit into the weeds here because only 2 weeks ago, Howard, the district attorney, said that a taser is considered a lethal weapon or deadly weapon. And it now puts this whole case into a weird flux, because if he overcharged here and the don't convict Rolfe, which is in the cases that we've seen over the last decade, that is highly likely that he overcharged and they won't get a verdict, or they won't get a guilty verdict. We could be looking at another Ferguson in some ways, but I mean, look, this whole thing could be all political on its face too.
Well, and that's honestly what I think it is. And I think the DA is overplaying it, and he's trying to save his position. Basically, that's my view on it, because the video evidence shows completely different than what he's spewing. And that's a problem, because if you're going to court with this case and the evidence is not in anywhere near what you're saying, then the jury is going to throw it out, or even the judge. And I think that the lawyer of the cop that said he was cooperating said that that's not true. The DA, he's not going to be a witness. I think it was
the lawyer of Brosnan,
Robert George. No,
Robert George is not. Robert George is he's over at the New York Post.
No, the other cop. Sorry.
Oh, Devin Brosnan. He's not actually going to testify? Okay, then that's
yes. I remember seeing a tweet saying that the lawyer said that claim from the DA is false.
Ah, I see. Okay. All right. Well, an interesting side note about all this is that Paul Howard, this was reported in May of this year, he's facing a Georgia Bureau of investigation regarding his use of a nonprofit to funnel at least $140,000 in City of Atlanta funds to supplement his salary, and is facing allegations of sexual harassment, which he denies. He's also facing a tough Democratic primary challenge. On June 9th, Georgia held their state primary, all throughout, from presidential, Senate, and all the lower races. He actually came in second against his former staffer, Fannie Willis, and he came in second. And because neither candidate reached 50% in that election, they'll have a runoff in August. and it's looking
Right.
like Fannie Willis is going to win, and people are starting to notice that Paul Howard, basically slapping these charges on these two officers, or at least on Garrett Rolfe, and overcharging him. There are a lot of critics saying that he's doing this for political purposes, and it's going to all backfire on him, which is probably where things are going to lead. Unfortunately, I mean, when you look at the video, when I saw the video, I thought there was zero justification for use of deadly force. But now they've left this wiggle room here where you have video of Paul Howard saying that actually a taser in the state of Georgia is considered a deadly weapon. Well, now all of a sudden, Garrett Rolfe's case might actually look stronger. He might not actually go to prison. He might actually get. He might get charged. He might actually get guilty, or sorry, he might be convicted on a lesser charge like manslaughter or aggravated assault or something like that. I have no idea.
It might all get thrown out too. And the thing is, going from a discussion where it should be that these cops need to be trained better into seeing, because I think that they came out, the sheriff came out to say that this is how they are trained, that the taser is a daily weapon and all this kind of stuff. So instead of focusing on how we can train better, how we can identify, non-lethal threats better, we are now in this mix of a political, this guy trying to save his political life on the death of a black man. And that is the takeaway I have off of it. And I think it's disgusting, because we could have really seen this for what it was and pushed forward better reforms and better training and better ways that they're supposed to handle this. And now that's all thrown out the window, I think. And I think they're going to riot. I honestly think
it might actually be on par with the 1992 LA riots. Like we thought in the last couple of weeks. Yeah, we thought in the last couple of weeks it's like these nationwide protests and rioting. Like we thought that was like on the level of like 1968 or 1992. Like I feel like we haven't seen the end of that. It's probably on. I mean, with the election up ahead in less than 5 months, I feel like it's only going to get worse. And unfortunately, you and I both know it's going to get worse.
Absolutely. And the thing is, Democrats and journalists know that it will, and they're going to use this and they're going to push it. That's my feeling. They're going to push it and exaggerate it.
That's unfortunate. Anyways, last quick topic before we get into the Habibi comments. Boogaloo murder. So there was a 32-year-old former staff sergeant, Stephen Carrillo. He was charged on Tuesday with the murder and attempted murder and the killing of a federal officer, Dave Patrick Underwood, as well as one of his fellow federal officers. Carrillo and a second man, Robert Justice, traveled to Oakland with the intent to kill police and believed the George Floyd protests, which they weren't a part of, would help them get away with it. And the constant thing that comes up to my mind is, why the hell is this not getting any coverage? I mean, when it comes to right-wing extremism, which this is, the media jumps all over it. Is it just because like the fact that their particular victim was a federal officer that they're not jumping on board with it? I mean, I did see reports, I think initially from NBC News on a digital, but like the level of coverage has been mute at best. Maybe is it, are we all just drinking from a fire hose? Is that why it's not getting the attention it needs?
Well, honestly, what I think it is that what I think it is that it's not the narrative that they want to push along. It's not something to fan the flames. It's an oddball.
It's not a divisive enough issue.
Yeah, exactly. And but I think it needs to be highlighted. It needs to be focused on. I mean, if we're going to be sitting here letting people know about Antifa, about leftists going overboard and all this kind of stuff, we need to be able to showcase those things as well. And I wish we had that. I wish we had that that Fox blasted it, or one of the other conservative media outlets. But it's really been just one tweet here and there about it. But again, I mean, we also had the Bolton thing drop and everything, and that is just journalist porn. everyone from the New York Times to Washington Post is just like
That's that
whacking off to
resistance
it
shit.
right now. That's
Yeah.
it. That's all they're thinking about.
That
And
is Stan Marsh sitting at the only computer with internet in that South Park episode, and he complete just all over the place.
right. That's exactly what it is. It's like right when it dropped, it's just like,
All right, let's hear from some Habibis. As you
let's see.
let's see. Question: how many Twitter accounts has Jay had from Habibi Gun? How many? You've had at least you've had close to a dozen. Have you not?
I think so, and I think we still have a group chat.
We have a group chat with Dustin Jeeble from way back when, which we still need to revamp. I haven't heard from him in a while. He's a family man, so he doesn't get online nearly as much.
Right.
But I took a screenshot, and they're like maybe 10 different accounts.
At the very least.
And every time you get banned and come back, I make sure I add you so I can keep track.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see who else. Would we move to Chaz? It's Chop now, but I don't know why they call it Chaz or Chop. It's Capitol Hill Occupy protest. They're trying to make it more like Occupy Wall Street of 2010 or 2009, 2010. Honestly, it's all bullshit at this point. It's a hippie commune. And I think the coverage as of now, it doesn't need any coverage. I think Fox News is, and some right-wing outlets are putting too much onus on it. But I think if you're still reporting on it now intensely, which I've seen Fox News do, there's no reason to do that.
I know. I mean, it was good.
It's just an amusing story
and stuff. Yeah, that's what it is. And
yeah.
And it's good to get the snippets of people shooting themselves in the foot in doing this, like showing the videos of people trying to take the law in their own hands and showing them kicking people out for talking about an issue that's outside of what they want in it, while claiming that they're free and all this kind of stuff, but claiming that it's like an armed insurrection and all this kind of stuff is hilarious. Because if you just leave them alone, everything's going to go back to normal. So one day these people are going to wake up and be like, what the fuck are we doing here? What is going on? What the fuck am I doing with my life? Like, I'm just drawing tic-tac-toe shit on the fucking ground with.
I just love my favorite thing about Chaz. My favorite thing about Chaz is the farm that they started in the middle of an athletic field. They're just like, yeah, here's some soil. We're just gonna plant stuff and expect it'll feed the entire population there.
So good.
Billy Finn says Randy Marsh. Siraj. Yes, I think I said Stan Marsh. I really meant Randy Marsh. Matt's Idea Shop, who, by the way, just came back from getting suspended for like 4 months. Welcome back, Matt.
Well, if he emailed me, I could tell him how to get back on quickly.
Matt's asking, what is that blouse Siraj is wearing? It's an Arsenal shirt. I didn't take it off after they lost 3-0 to Man City. You can all
it's because you're a masochist.
I really hate myself. Really hate myself. But okay. Let's see. One last question. We're gonna say Jordan Lethal, who eats more ass, Jay or Brian Stelter? Depends on your definition of ass, right?
How many moms are out there?
Okay, get one more because I need to respond to this. How has Tom Brady's move to Tampa Bay affected you? God, I'm gonna kick Bean Dude 99, aka Nate, off of the chat. That hurts too much. Okay, let's get into it. Our weekly jihad. Real quick. Okay, so college campuses are basically spilling into the real world, and this is in the last week alone. We've seen the most egregious example. Well, yeah, in the last 2 weeks, we talked about it with the New York Times and the Cotton op-ed, but now conservative publications are being targeted via complaints from NBC News Verification Center. The Federalist was reportedly demonetized by Google over their comments section, and then Zero Hedge, another right-wing outlet, I think is over, or conservative outlet that's out in the UK. They were demonetized by Google, I think, entirely. You called me yesterday fuming. You were just like, I'm gonna wage jihad on all these motherfuckers.
Well, absolutely. Because the thing is, when you're looking at something like this and seeing it bleed over from the college campus idea of safetyism and all this kind of bullshit to coddle people into believing one thing, or forcing other people by destroying their lives into believing this one thing as well. That's not how you get people to interact with each other and get onto your side of the view. It's going to have the opposite effect. It's going to cause more people to go further right than actually go to what you want to be talking about, and seeing this stuff unfold, and seeing the same people who claim that cancel culture isn't real, who say that there's attacks on journalism, that Trump is going to kill journalism and all this kind of bullshit, cheer this on, just goes to show you that they're full of shit. Every one of these journalists are full of shit. Every one of these blue check marks are full of shit. They want to say that Trump making fun of Acosta is going to cause journalists to be killed and lose jobs and all this kind of stuff, while they are totally fine with the Federalists being kicked off, while they're totally fine with Media Matters lying and editing out videos about Fox and Fox News hosts so they can try and get them demonetized and also get their advertisers off.
Yeah.
Cancel culture is real. It's here to stay, and it's being pushed by journalists. They will come after you. That just like what they did with Mike Gundy. And that's another thing that's getting me fucking heated as well. Because he is out on a personal fucking fishing trip with his family, posting a fucking thing on Facebook, and this journalist from CBS, Mike whatever the fuck, went and said like, "Oh, look at Mike Gundy wearing an Owen shirt." Who the fuck are you? Fuck you and fuck this shit. People are supposed to be able to wear whatever the fuck he wants. I mean, if he was wearing a chai shirt, or you would be totally fine. Nobody would have said shit. Nobody would have given a flying fuck about it. But he wore an Owen shirt. And I'm not even I don't give a fuck about Owen. I don't. I really, really don't. I think they're full of shit themselves, and I think they're really extreme. And I think that there's a lot of reporting that they do that needs to be reeled back and criticized for sure. Yeah. But to try and ruin a person's life over wearing their T-shirt, that's not where I would go. I would not do that.
For reference, Jay is talking about OAN, One American News. He says Owen. Like it's an actual person.
I apologize. I'm reading the name. But you're understanding where I'm coming from, because not only did I do it from CBS Sports, but also you have CNN going over to your fucking grandmother's house over posts that they do on Facebook. Who the fuck are these people? And who the fuck gave them the authority to say what is right and wrong in this regard? Who?
Yeah, I mean, look,
that did.
So
and they want to ruin these people's lives over it. And the person who made this mainstream over it was K-File. Sorry.
Yeah, a couple of things interesting about it. So today, all the Mike Gundy story was rehashed on by Shannon Sharp on Undisputed FS1. He said that he had a conversation with Alfred Williams, who played for the University of Colorado football team. Mike Gundy was a player at OSU, at Oklahoma State, where he's now the coach. And in 1989, apparently, and this was reported on back then by the Tulsa World newspaper, that Gundy called Williams the N-word. And they've actually dug up this whole article and found it, and it's on Twitter now. And Gundy denied it then, and then he tried to say that pin the blame on the other players at the University of Colorado for basically talking so much shit. I don't know how that's going to affect Gundy now, because he's apologized since for wearing the Owen shirt. And you got me saying Owen now. But I mean, look, I actually used to go on Owen before they kind of went crazy right-wing extremists with their reporting. And the one that did it for me, that really told me that they were unserious, or they were basically wearing tinfoil hats, and they basically had the they were almost as on the same level as like InfoWars, was when they were basically reporting and there was some news package or some report in which they were disputing the accuracy of Syria dropping chemical weapons on its own people. To which I was like, yeah, this doesn't sound like it. I ever want to go back on them again. I'm out. See ya. Like,
which is good for you too, because you don't want that to tarnish you at all.
Yeah, no. And so like, but they've gone full in Trump tank, and like, they actually have a policy internally that they don't ever criticize the Trump administration, which, like, if you're in the media or journalism world, like, that's obviously very sycophantish. And I don't know if that's a word, but like, it's just so over the top. And like the whole thing with Mike Gundy getting canceled for just simply wearing a shirt. Again, like, it's these things that you do on personal trips that, maybe Mike Gundy is a racist. Maybe he's evolved over the years since he said the N-word back in 1989. Maybe he's just like a tinfoil hat wearing boomer. I don't know. I mean, the fact that he apologized, maybe that shows that he is growing, or maybe he was, people are saying he was held hostage. Certainly possible. But I mean, it's just having this whole thing blow up online with that running back, I believe it's Chuba Hubbard or Chuba Hubbard. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing his name, but like, it's one of those things where like,
that's my job.
Why tweet about it when you can like go to the coach directly and hold him account? But maybe tweeting about it was the right way to go, and he actually needed to do it. And like, that's the thing, is like that's the environment we live in, is that when you tweet about stuff, you definitely get in more. Twitter is really just where all the news breaks, and you can get a huge, like, you don't have to sign petitions anymore to call out anything. You just tweet about it, and you get like hundreds of thousands of people basically calling on someone to be fired or resign or apologize. And that's essentially what Twitter's become nowadays. But moving on, because this is another crazy story. Rick Wilson, who everyone knows on Twitter, still follows me. Apparently, I met him a couple of years ago. He seemed like a decent guy. I mean, in the couple of years since meeting him, like, his brain is completely melted, and he's just like over the top, like just so overzealous about how much he hates Trump. I mean, you remember that clip earlier this year on CNN on Don Lemon, and he just caught like so much shit for it. I think he was just like insulting the intelligence of basically everyone in flyover country, or anyone who supports Trump, that they can't find Ukraine on the map. And so he was trying to get
stereotypes.
Yeah. So he was trying to get Domino's Pizza canceled over a response to your favorite person, Kayleigh McEnany. It was a tweet from 2012 when McEnany wasn't really anyone. She was a nobody. She wasn't in politics. She wasn't. I think she was still in school, and so like she responded to she said that like, Domino's Pizza is better than like any New York pizza, which, by the way, is blasphemous. How dare you ever say that? You should get canceled for just that opinion alone. But then it boiled over into like Rick Wilson tweeting about it, and Rick Wilson's like, now we need to cancel Domino. Like, you killed your brand or something like that. Like, everything Trump touches
that's the
dies.
funny thing.
And it's just like, it's and then like a bunch of my friends online just spent the entire day dragging Rick Wilson's ass, like him and his wife, over, and they got photos. They got photos from his and his wife's Instagram of it was like a Confederate flag cooler,
right?
And just like everything that they were, it just like exposes the grift.
Right. 100%. And I think what's his name? He's the leprechaun. Jeffrey Dunham. What's his name?
What? The leprechaun?
Yeah, I forget his name on Twitter. Why I'm blanking out on his name. I call him a leprechaun because he's like he's ginger. I forget. I forget.
Dude, you had me lost, bro.
I'm so bad. But he went through Rick's Twitter history and he started retweeting a lot of Rick's tweets.
Jerry Dunleavy?
Jerry, that's his name. I call him Jeffrey. No, Jerry. Thank you. Jerry Dumfrey. No.
Oh my god. I gotta show Jerry this.
Shit. But
Jerry's my colleague at the Examiner. He's a good dude. It's just so funny you call him a leprechaun.
He went back to 2012 and stuff like that, and he really showcased how Rick is really this grift, because he was criticizing Joe Biden as being a creep, as being like not all there, and all this kind of stuff as low back as 2015 and 2016 and stuff. So you know that this flip that he did, knew he was going to get all this money. Yeah. And I think the person who saw the Instagram post was Caleb Hull. Yeah,
Caleb Hull, and then I think Drew Holden as well. I think they all three of them together dragged him. I think James Hassan, another friend, he was one of the few people I think who helped start this whole thing. I think he responded to Rick Wilson's original tweet about like about like your brand. Yeah, you killed your brand. It just, and then like the people spent the next 24 hours absolutely roasting the fuck out of him.
I know, and he's been a little silent, and the thing is, it's
he was saying like if you think it's bad, like wait until you see what happens tonight. And then like during Tucker's show, he had like 2 ads that went up for the Lincoln Project showing how like Trump embraced the or like linking the Confederate flag to Trump, and then also with Trump's ramp walk during the West Point commencement address this past weekend.
Right.
He was basically making it look like Trump was unwell or not mentally fit. And I mean, I don't know how you were able to make that argument without also saying that Joe Biden isn't mentally fit. Because I mean, it's just it's just amazing. Yeah,
he's not held any press conference or nothing. He's just had interviews.
Yeah,
he's not been on Fox.
Yeah.
When's the last time he's gone on Fox?
Who? Rick Wilson?
No, Joe Biden.
Joe Biden, damn, I don't even know, man. I would be surprised if he went on at any point in time during his during the time he was vice president. I certainly don't recall him ever going on for a voluntary interview during this primary cycle. The only time I remember ever seeing him speak to a Fox News reporter was, I think, when he was, talking to a bunch of reporters in like basically a scrum, a reporter scrum. He would just answer the question, not knowing who the reporter is, and they would use that footage and put it on. But yeah, man, that was just absolutely stupid. And then you got
to go to your point about him criticizing Trump, is he's not the only one who was criticizing him. A lot of reporters were too, and they had full articles on it. So I can't wait. I can't wait to see their reporting on Joe Biden, or when a right-wing outlet reports on Joe Biden's health and stuff. And as I know for a fact that little bitch, Brian Stelter, is going to be a complete piece of shit when it comes to it. I know it. I just know it. He's not going to say shit about New York Times, criticizing Trump, because he went on for 2 years saying that Trump is mentally ill and shit. So that's the one I'm waiting
for. Real quick, because we only got about 10 more minutes before I got to get Ern. Um, so just to finish off this quick section about college campuses and kind of it bleeding into the real world, you have a couple of things like Benji Backer, who he's more of he's a conservative who focuses a lot on conservation, so climate change issues. He's been very vocal about that sort of stuff. And he was actually supposed to speak at a climate change reform event, and they canceled his appearance because of a tweet that he wrote about coronavirus, COVID-19, and linking it to China. And it's like, I'm gonna pull it up real quick because it's just so ridiculous. Because when you actually read the contents of the tweet, you're like, how the hell could how could you get a speech canceled over this? It is absolutely insane. Where is it? But yeah, like that's the type of like depths that people go to. Oh, here we go. He wrote back in May, on May 17th, COVID has taught us that the world is far more interconnected than we originally thought. We can't always put ourselves first at the expense of others. It's also made us realize that we are far too dependent on and gracious to China. That's what got him canceled. That and that one other thing, and that was him retweeting about it wasn't even his tweet, it was a retweet. It was you remember that huge protest, the Black Trans Lives Matter protest in Brooklyn, and they show the video of everyone gathering together.
Huge, thousands of
people. Autumn Johnson quote tweeted that, saying, "My mom passed away this morning and I wasn't able to say goodbye last night." He retweeted that, and that's what got him canceled. And obviously, like, our thoughts go out to Autumn Johnson and her family over the passing of her mom. And it just puts everything in perspective. Like even it doesn't matter if we're going to die in less than 12 years because of climate change. You sent a bad tweet, therefore you're canceled. And like, it's completely irrelevant. Like you don't want to get hands on deck, all hands on deck. You want to just be right about everything.
Right. And what I think about when you look at these things and people dare to say that cancel culture isn't real, and you see these things happen, that he's deplatformed for a retweet that is factual, for a tweet that is factual, and not only factual, it's not blaming China for anything or saying anything. It's just saying we're dependent and we give too much leeway to China. How is that racist? How is that anything that is deserving?
Nothing makes any sense now.
It doesn't. And it's really egging me on, because we used to have a thing where, like, sticks and stones, where we are trying to judge people more on, their merits and more on what they have to say and all these kind of stuff. But they've taken it to the extreme. To me, this is the new religion. This is what Catholics were, what Islam was, like what a lot of these people were back in the day, where it's like any kind of blasphemous say, any kind of heresy, anything like that from what you believe, you need to be canceled. Your life needs to be ruined, all this kind of stuff. And honestly, when you see people make those arguments, I see it. I see that this is a new religion on the left.
Yeah, it's an orthodoxy for sure. And I actually encourage everyone, my good friend Ryan Gerdusky, who I used to work with at Red Alert Politics, he published a new book with Harlan Hill. It's titled "They're Not Listening." It's like how the elites started a national populist revolution. It's actually very well written and researched, and it kind of details the whole timeline of like national populism, how around the world it became more mainstream from being just a fringe movement. And whether you agree or not with national populism, or you identify with the national populist ideology, it's certainly informative and enlightening to that particular ideology. But one thing that he hones in on is that how basically this neoliberal, like wokeism and cancel culture, like that has become an orthodoxy in itself, and that there's no salvation for them. I think he went on Tucker Tonight and kind of explained how there's no salvation for being woke or being part of this this mob. It's only about being punished. Like it's only damnation, no salvation.
No, exactly. And they'll come for whoever. It doesn't matter who you are. They will come for you. They will, and they will destroy you if you're in any way not in line. And even if you were something you tweeted out when you were 16, something you said when you were 12, doesn't matter. They're coming for you, and they want to destroy you because it makes them look righteous.
We were just talking about it last week with a Yale student. They were trying to expel her for saying something completely un-PC. I don't even remember what she said, but the fact that they were trying to cut after her when she was 14 for saying something crazy, that's just wild. All right, real quick before earn time, really wanted to get to this because this when I saw it, I nearly popped a blood vessel in my eye. And that is this continued rehabilitation of the Nation of Islam leader, Louis Farrakhan. We saw it with Ice Cube in the last couple of weeks. In this last week, we saw it with these woke celebrities in Hollywood. We saw it with Chelsea Handler on Instagram, Jamila Jamil on Instagram as well, Julianne Moore also on Instagram. And also, by the way, I don't give a fuck if they're posting on Instagram. The list is coming for them if it's egregious enough. Okay. That is, I am laying down the law here. Okay. If the post is egregious enough that they got to post it on Instagram, the list is coming for their asses. Okay. And then you have, like Jennifer Garner, Jennifer Aniston, and Michelle Pfeiffer all liking these tweets, being like, this is so profound and like this is so interesting, and they're I don't fucking get it. Why Farrakhan of all fucking people, you got to promote his ass? Like, there is no reason. You can find a bunch of other people promoting a similar type of if he made a valid point about, say, race relations, which is I'm sure what they were focusing on. You can't like maybe find that from someone else making that a similar point, who obviously doesn't hate, someone who doesn't call Jews termites or doesn't hate the LGBT community. I mean, like, it's all just it's just too much.
It's insane, and they give it a pass. The thing is, the mainstream cancel culture hypocrites give it a pass. They do. 100%. They give it a complete pass.
And it always seems like Jews are on the receiving end of basically every single oppression, a form of oppression. Like,
or bigotry.
It's just so stupid. Really? And then you have the Dems wearing kente cloth this past week in light of the George Floyd protest, getting on one knee. And then it was reported, at least there's a fact check in the USA Today, that the kente cloth was associated with the Ashanti tribe in West Africa. It's a tribe that was running the slave trade out there, along with the Western colonial powers, including, you had Spain, you had the Brits, you had basically any of the European colonial powers that were operating and participating in the African slave trade. Or the transatlantic slave trade. They were dealing with the Ashanti tribe, and they wore kente cloth. So while the kente cloth today is considered to be something that's involved with, Black identity, or African identity, what you name it, it's almost laughable that fact check kind of came forward, and all of a sudden Democrats are just like, whoops, I guess, racism is solved by us wearing this. Real quick, a couple.
Tim Scott did an epic duck on Durbin because Durbin was calling his policy coming into play like tokenism and like a token policy and all this kind of stuff. And he retweeted him saying, like, how are those kente cloths?
Yeah. Okay.
And honestly,
I'm gonna pause the conversation right here. We'll get into the rest of the stuff. I'm gonna go get Ern.
Oh, go get him. The main star of the show. While he's doing that, I can ask answer some of your guys' questions to the best of my ability. Habibi gun. Siraj is half Pakistani and the other half is white American. I have Fuzzy, this right here, this was from Target. Bruce's mom is doing fantastic, Jess, and Bruce should be hopefully back on soon. He's taking a break.
There he is. Oh, here he is.
I really wish Scott and my big thing is if it was Scott and Haley. Holy shit, that would be a ticket.
Who's leading though? Who's leading in that?
Tim Scott and Haley,
okay.
Of course. I mean, because
wow, you sexist motherfucker.
Of course, who's going to be in the kitchen?
Ernie doesn't like that. Neither do I. You sexist motherfucker. Okay, real quick. So before we get into more questions, so Quaker Oats announced today that they are changing their maple syrup line, Aunt Jemima, from the current imagery of a black woman and also the naming of Aunt Jemima to something else, which I actually think is a good decision, because when you remember how Aunt Jemima came to be, that is a stereotypical depiction of a black woman from over 100 years ago, like the mammy stereotype, and often used in minstrel shows. And so if you want to actually move the needle in terms of not stereotyping or posting imagery that reminds a certain community, in this case the black community, of a time in which things haven't progressed in any way, shape, or form, I'm actually I'm in support of that. I actually think it was a good move.
I do too. I'm totally in agreement.
I think I think Charlie Kirk getting butthurt about it is actually really funny and kind of exposes where his head is at, because I mean, how are you going to get mad at syrup? It's syrup.
He's a piece of shit, to be honest. He has to be against anything that is considered a left or leftist ideology.
Yeah, it's all culture war.
It's all bullshit. And what they have to
dude just needs to shut the fuck up. Like, it's just too much. Like, sure, it's like, I know there are things that, like, for example, like the University of Virginia changing, they're subtly changing their logo. And it's like literally like the indents on the saber to recognize its role in slavery. Like, I don't know anybody who saw the University of Virginia logo and said, that reminds me of slavery. Like, I'm sure it's a very niche group and probably a very woke group, but like, that's not going to do much compared to like changing the Aunt Jemima brand, in my opinion.
Right. And the thing is, it went from a rigid handle to a smooth handle. That's it. That's all they changed to it. And the thing is, nobody was really looking into that. Or and they're going to come for the Redskins next. That's what I'm thinking. I think.
No, because Dan Snyder's still running the team, and he doesn't give a fuck. So there's that. Oh, and then before we forget, the Minnesota Bail Fund, they're under fire for taking in over $35 million and only distributing $200,000. And the best part about it is that their entire staff is white.
Right. No, that's hilarious. They have all this. And all these funds going in, and you know where that should have gone? That should have gone to minority businesses that were completely destroyed from the riots in Minnesota. That's where it needs to go. The Minneapolis mayor was requesting $55 million from federal funds. It's probably going to go up, and he's going to want more. That could have helped the city tremendously.
I mean, like, when you donate money to a particular fund, you typically earmark it for something. You earmark it for something that you want it to go to. So in this case, if they're donating their money with the intention of having protesters who are arrested bailed out of jail, you expect that money to be going to people who are currently in jail and need bail money. So like,
Right.
unless they like went through all the money, they should probably either give people the option to have their money refunded, or actually like run it by the people that donated money to them, saying, hey, we're going to repurpose this money for, say, giving it back to the community and rebuilding all the black owned or people or colored people of color owned businesses, and basically asking for their permission to do it. Some people might say yes. I'm sure a lot of people say no, but like, it's just at this point, maybe it's because they didn't have, when you're dealing with $35 million, that's a lot of money to get in a very short period of time. And you always have to run. There's always the room for doubt that, maybe they just didn't know how to handle all that money. And in a short period of time. So I think they've been trying to explain themselves away, but like, still, you gotta laugh when they're all getting called out for being for basically being grifters. Yeah,
for being a Sean King.
Yeah. Finally, the Supreme Court ruled this week that and this is the big news here. I don't actually know the name of the case that they ruled on, but it was essentially protecting LGBT rights in the workplace and saying that no one under Title VII of the Civil Rights Act should be fired for their sex in this case. So like, if you're part of the LGBT community, Neil Gorsuch writing the majority opinion, which is a huge surprise to a lot of social conservatives, because they were particularly salty about him weighing in on it. And I mean, you and I are of the belief that no one should be fired for any reason, so long as they are competent and can do the job.
Right. And the thing is, like, something like your sex and stuff should be protected. Like,
yeah, I mean, as a gay incel lib, I shouldn't be fired for being I need to be protected.
Absolutely, 100%. Now, and as being a gay incel lib, there's very minimalistic jobs that you're competent enough to do, but at least
very true.
You need to protect it. You need to be protected in those.
Yeah,
but as we were
Boston versus Clayton County,
but as we were saying on it, is that you're not going to have a gay person going to a mosque to become a cleric, or to go to a Catholic church to become a priest. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if a gay person went to a bakery that was owned by a conservative Catholic, the only thing that should matter is his baking. Now, for example, if they wanted to bake a cake with a cross on it and he didn't want to do it, then it's in his right to fire him, because he's not doing his task and doing the job he's supposed to be doing. That's a different story. But being gay or being trans or being any of those things that you want to be, that's your right. And conservatives need to should be on the side of less government interfering with those things. And you need to have your civil rights protected, no matter what it is. Your lesbian, gay, all that stuff.
I think, and this is why I think it's interesting that some people are arguing that the Supreme Court is legislating. They're not simply just ruling on certain things and saying whether it's constitutional or not. They're creating basically new precedent that wasn't dictated under the legislative branch, under Congress. And so, look, I get that argument. You probably want to limit the powers of the Supreme Court to essentially rule on certain things, but I guess when it comes to, like, say, certain things like human decency, certainly human rights, obviously no one's entitled to a job, but like, no one should be discriminated against for the way they are or who they are. And I mean, like, look, I don't think this is like the worst thing that could possibly happen, but there's certainly a lot of people who feel like that. So, I mean, you and I both know that if without the Civil Rights Act, I'm sure you and I both could be fired for just being half brown men. You a little bit more brown. You're like 60% brown. I'm like 40%. I haven't gone
out to
brown.
the beach in a while. Like, I haven't been tanning or anything, but usually I'm more olive than anything. But Carlos makes a good question. If you go up,
Yeah, let
he
me
was
pull it
talking
up.
about if a teacher was in Catholic school and he came out as gay or trans, should he be allowed to teach? I'm saying if he's not going against so let's say it's a private school and they have certain guidelines on how they want to teach and what they want to discuss, then it's fine. If he's a math teacher and he's talking about gay relationships and stuff, then yeah, they have the right to fire him because he's not in line with teaching math. You know what I mean? It's not going into the guidelines of what his job
It's
is.
completely, yeah, that part is like completely, it's going out of his way to talk about something that's not relating to the subject.
Exactly. He's a math teacher who's supposed to teach algebra, and he's trying to talk about, you know, how him and his partner has sex, or about gay rights, or about gay people in general and stuff like that. Then yeah, because that's not in the curriculum and that's not what he's supposed to be teaching. And
let's hear from some more Habibis. Fuzzy asks, Siraj, LB and I both want to know what is on your hand. Ern seems to love whatever it is. This is just my natural scent, baby. He's gonna.
It's that salt.
It's that salt.
That's what it is. You gotta get that Muslim salt.
That Muslim salt. Ernie also, he's also an obsessive liquor. He actually can't control his liquor. Yeah, what are you doing, bud? What is that? I'm pretty sure most people think I'm gay because of Ernie.
No, I think they think you're gay because of you. No.
Ernie thinks I'm gay just because I'm close with another male, in this case.
Yes.
Ernie. Let's see. All right. So Matt Blakely asks, given that many evangelicals voted for Trump based on SCOTUS appointments, how does Gorsuch writing the majority opinion in the LGBTQ plus case affect that? You know, I actually don't think it has much of people who are mostly Trump supporters before Trump won the nomination have been pretty diehard about sticking with him. And I don't think this factors into the calculus here. When it's between Trump and Joe Biden, I don't think it's going to matter at the end of the day.
No, and not with what's that name? What's her name? Gunnarsburg, with her being, you know,
say that again. What was that?
Gunnarsburg.
You mean Ruth Bader Ginsburg?
Oh, Ginsburg. Yeah, thank you. Whatever the fuck her name is. With her being on her deathbed ready to retire, I don't think it's mattered because
she's not on her deathbed. She's an iron lady.
Okay, not on her deathbed. I'm sorry, but she's like,
you don't put that energy out there. People are going to kill you. People are going to cancel you so quick. Carlos asking comments on Chris D'Elia canceling. So I've thought about this quite a bit. I've seen the allegations against him for sexual harassment and his response. And look, I don't know. I'm waiting on more information to come out before like really coming down on whether he's a creep. He sounds like a creep at the very least. It doesn't sound like he committed anything beyond just harassing, basically being creepy on text. And if people can, you know, talk about how it's sexual harassment, maybe that's one thing. But like, I mean, or him going after girls who are underage,
16.
Like the things I've seen, at least the anonymous accounts, is that, or at least in the emails that I've seen, with his email in there, as soon as the girls announce their age, he like backs off. He's like, too young. Like, I feel like he knows at least that limit.
I think so.
But the anonymous accounts, the anonymous accounts definitely are a bit, they're a bit finicky to me because, you know, those can come from anyone and everyone can make them up unless you have someone go on the record, or if you have like actual corroboration. It's just an allegation that you can't respond to. And so I think his response as he's posted it, like, that is, I guess, I mean, he said he owns it now, and I mean, we'll just have to see where it goes from there.
Right, and I think that's the right play for him to do, especially if he has those texts and stuff saying like after he finds out their age, he's like, oh, you know what,
Yeah.
dude, that's too
But
much.
I mean,
And
the thing
big
is,
shots
there's a
can
good
be
chance that he will be. There might be more things coming down the pipeline that might make
right.
him
Absolutely.
completely, morally reprehensible. In which case, we'll
Right.
talk about it
And a
when
lot
the
of this
info
stuff
comes
comes
out.
to their heads. I think a
Yeah.
lot of this stuff comes to their heads too. Like they think that they can go and get whoever they want and whatever they want.
Yeah. David Leal asks, "What's your take on the India-China border dispute?" I haven't. I've only lightly followed that. It looks like they're just fighting over a very tiny strip of territory, and
Right.
India is completely fucking them up. Which I'm I'm obviously half Pakistani. I'm not a huge fan of India, but like when it comes to China, like yeah, good, fuck them up. I don't care.
Fuck that shit up. They got
Yeah.
their Bollywood heroes coming up and
China
doing some
needs to be checked. I don't think it's going to escalate beyond what we've seen already. If you have two countries as big as those going to war, that is a really bad idea. That is, I think there are enough people, enough countries enough powerful countries on the sidelines being like, don't you fucking do this. If you got two nuclear powers going to war with each other, that's not a good combination for anyone.
No, and I think people will come together to stop it. To be honest, I honestly think that that's what will happen. Like, there's not going to be people choosing. Like, Russia's not going to choose China, and America's not going to choose India. I think like Russia and everybody else in Japan, everyone is going to come together to stop those two from keeping it going. I don't think I don't think it's going to end up like something like World War II.
No, for sure. I think it's like a mini version of that. Gary F writes, Danny Masterson charged with 3 rapes. This is the guy who played that one character, I think Stephen Hyde in that 70s show. Yeah. And it was originally reported back in 2017. I think at that time we all knew like he was being canceled. And
it wasn't being canceled; it was being rightfully accused because.
He was no. I meant like people. I mean, he was basically dropped from that Netflix show, The Ranch, and then all of a sudden, these charges come 3 years later, which is pretty slow to me. I don't know what took so long, because I thought there seemed like a pretty clear-cut case of forceful rape.
I think what took so long was also Scientology having a lot of leeway in it.
Wait, is he a Scientologist? I can't remember.
Yes. No, he is a Scientologist. And one person that really, really reported on it thoroughly was Rayshard. If you look at some of his reporting on it, Rayshard, he he reported on it pretty accurately and well documented, and also about like how Scientology had an effect on it, and it's a really bad cult over there in Scientology world and stuff. And the thing I wanted to just reiterate is cancel culture is a real thing when it comes to people going after 62-year-olds over a Facebook post. But somebody like Danny Martinson being canceled, it's totally legitimate. Also, Yashar's recent article on the ABC executive being the way she is, that's also a legitimate go through that. One.
That's on my reading list.
It's a good one, and it's a legitimate one as well, because if she is in the place of power like she is, and she holds these views, this needs to be called out, because she's not going to be able to hire talent appropriately, and it needs to be called out and needs to be shown.
Billy Finn says De Blasio sucks this week. I mean, he sucks every week, but it's like he doesn't care. I mean, you said that Steve King is or Bill de Blasio is the Steve King of the left, and like he proves it every day that passes. He is so ridiculous how he constantly goes after them. It's so fucking.
And I can't wait. And I think he knows he's going to lose, and I think he knows he's going to be kicked out, and hopefully soon. Yeah.
Well, anyways, Habibis, that's been 69 minutes. I hope we were able to fit everything in. The only thing we didn't really get to was the Resistance Book Club, but I think that was all encompassed around John Bolton in the beginning. And that's really around Mary Trump writing a tell-all book about her uncle, President Trump, and then Mary Jordan writing about a book about Melania and how she stayed in New York to renegotiate her prenuptial agreement. I don't know if we have much to talk about that, but since it's the end of the show, maybe when we get more information on that, we'll talk about it. Anyways, Habibis, y'all been great. Thank you so much for joining us. Ern, Jabibi, and Sabibi. We all thank you. Masalama. We'll see you on the Twitters. Peace.